Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Made Easy. I'm Ryan, and today I have a very special guest with me. This is Lisa, and she's just starting her English learning journey. Lisa came to me last week and said she wants to learn English but doesn't know where to begin. So today we're going to have a real conversation about the most important things you need to know when you're starting from zero at the A1 beginner level. Lisa, thank you so much for being here and for being brave enough to share your learning journey with everyone watching. Now, I know starting a new language can feel really overwhelming. There's grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, listening, speaking, reading, writing. It's a lot. But here's the good news. You don't need to learn everything at once. In fact, trying to learn everything at the same time is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. So today, Lisa and I are going to break down exactly what you should focus on first, and I'm going to give her and all of you watching a simple, practical plan that actually works. Sound good, Lisa?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Ryan. I'm really excited to be here, but I have to be honest, I'm also pretty nervous. Learning English has been something I've wanted to do for such a long time, maybe 2 or 3 years now, but I always felt like I didn't know where to start. Every time I would try to begin, I'd open a textbook or watch a video, and there would be so much information about grammar rules and vocabulary lists and pronunciation, and I would just feel completely overwhelmed and confused. I think my biggest problem is that I want to learn everything at once because I'm impatient, and I want to be able to speak fluently as quickly as possible. But then I try to do too much. I get frustrated because I can't remember anything, and I end up quitting after a few days or maybe a week. So when you said we're going to talk about what to focus on first and create a real plan, I felt so relieved. I really need someone to tell me exactly what to do step by step. Because right now I feel like I'm trying to build something, but I don't have instructions. So I just keep starting over and over again without making any real progress. That's why I'm here today. I want to finally commit to learning English the right way this time, and I'm ready to follow a clear plan and be patient with myself, even though patience is really hard for me. So, yes, I'm definitely ready to learn. Where should we start?
All of you watching, a simple, practical plan that actually works. Sound good, Lisa? That's exactly the right attitude to have. Okay, so let's start with the foundation, and I mean the absolute foundation. Before you learn any grammar rules or try to have conversations, you need to master the English alphabet and the sounds that each letter makes. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Ryan, that's too basic. But trust me, this is crucial. English has 26 letters, but it has about 44 different sounds, which we call phonemes. Some letters make different sounds depending on the word, like the letter C in cat versus city. And some letter combinations create completely new sounds, like th or ch. So here's what I want you to do, Lisa, and everyone watching. Spend your first week just focusing on the alphabet. Listen to native speakers say each letter. Practice writing them, both uppercase and lowercase. Then start learning the most common sound each letter makes. You can find great videos on YouTube that go through each letter with clear pronunciation. Say them out loud, record yourself, and compare it to native speakers. This might seem boring, But I promise you, if you skip this step, you'll struggle with pronunciation forever. You need to train your mouth and your ears to recognize English sounds that might not exist in your native language. Once you're comfortable with individual letters and sounds, move on to simple phonics. Learning how letters combine to make sounds in real words. Start with three-letter words like cat, dog, sun, run, and big. Practice reading them slowly, sounding out each letter, and then saying the whole word. This foundation will make everything else so much easier. Does this make sense so far, Lisa? I know it's a lot of information.
Okay, so the alphabet and sounds, that actually makes a lot of sense when you explain it like that. I think I've been taking the alphabet for granted because I already know the letters, like I can recognize them when I see them written down, and I know the names of the letters A, B, C, D, and so on. But you're right that I don't really know all the different sounds they make, and that's been causing me problems when I try to pronounce words I've never heard before. For example, I was trying to read a simple sentence the other day, and there was the word city in it, and I pronounced it like kitty, with a hard K sound because of the C at the beginning. And then I heard someone say city correctly, and I realized I was completely wrong. That was really confusing for me because I didn't understand why the C makes an S sound in that word, but a K sound in other words like cat. And you mentioned the sounds too. Oh my goodness, those are so difficult for me. Like in think or this. My tongue doesn't want to go between my teeth like that. It feels strange and uncomfortable. So, I really appreciate you saying that I should spend a whole week just on the alphabet and sounds because I think I need that foundation. I don't want to skip ahead and then struggle later because I never learned the basics properly. I'll definitely look for those YouTube videos you mentioned where native speakers demonstrate each letter sound clearly. And I like the idea of recording myself too, because then I can actually hear what I sound like and compare it to native speakers. Sometimes I think I'm saying something correctly, but then when I hear myself, I realize it sounds different than I thought. Okay, so alphabet and sounds for week 1. I can do that. But what comes next after that foundation is solid?
Perfect. I love that you mentioned feeling confused sometimes because that's completely normal. Learning a language is like building a house. If the foundation isn't solid, everything else will be shaky. So let's talk about the next essential piece: basic vocabulary. Now, you might be wondering, how many words do I need to know? Well, research shows that with just 1,000 of the most common English words, you can understand about 80% of everyday conversation. Isn't that amazing? You don't need to memorize the dictionary. But here's the key: you need to learn the right words first. Focus on high frequency words that you'll actually use every day. Things like pronouns I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Basic verbs be, have, do, go, get, make, know, think, see, want. Common nouns: time, person, year, day, thing, man, woman, child, water, food, and essential adjectives: good, bad, big, small, new, old, happy, sad. These are your building blocks. Now, here's my recommendation for vocabulary learning. Don't just memorize word lists. That's boring and ineffective. Instead, Learn words in context and in chunks. For example, don't just learn the word morning. Learn the phrase good morning. Don't just learn thank. Learn thank you very much. These phrases will stick in your memory better because you're learning how words are actually used together. Also use flashcards or apps like Anki, but make sure you're seeing images, hearing pronunciation, and using the words in example sentences. And Lisa, this is important. Try to learn maybe 10 to 15 new words per day. Don't overwhelm yourself with 50 words because you won't remember them. Slow and steady wins the race. What do you think about that approach?
That foundation is solid. Wow, only 1,000 words to understand 80% of conversations? That's actually really encouraging because I thought I would need to know tens of thousands of words to be able to communicate. But you're right that I need to focus on the right words first, the ones I'll actually use in real life every day. I think one of my mistakes before was that I would try to learn random words that I thought were interesting or cool, but then I'd never actually use them in conversation, so I'd forget them immediately. I really like your idea about learning words in phrases and chunks instead of just memorizing individual words from a list. That makes so much more sense because when I try to memorize single words without context, I can never remember how to actually use them in a sentence. Like, I might know the word morning, but if I don't know that people say good morning as a greeting, then that word isn't really useful to me yet. And you mentioned learning 10 to 15 words per day, which feels manageable, not too little where I'm barely making progress, but also not so much that my brain gets overloaded and I forget everything by the next day. I do have a question though, and I'm a little worried about this. What about grammar? Everyone always talks about how English grammar is so difficult with all the tenses and irregular verbs and confusing rules. When should I start learning grammar? And how much grammar do I need to know as a beginner? Because that's another thing that has overwhelmed me in the past. I would open a grammar book and see things like present, perfect, continuous tense, and conditional sentences and all these complicated names, and I would just panic and think, I'll never understand all of this. So, what's your advice about grammar for someone at my level?
I'm so glad you brought up grammar because this is where a lot of beginners get stuck and frustrated. They try to learn all the grammar rules at once and it just becomes this confusing mess. So let me give you the A1 priority list for grammar. These are the only things you need to focus on in your first few months. Number 1, the verb to be. I know it sounds simple, but this is the most important verb in English. You need to master all its forms. I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, they are, and also the negative forms. I am not, you are not, he is not, and so on. And questions. Am I? Are you? Is he? This verb is everywhere, and you'll use it constantly. Practice making simple sentences. I am happy. You are my friend. She is a teacher. Do this until it becomes automatic. Number 2, present simple tense. This is how we talk about facts, habits, and routines. Learn how to form basic sentences with regular verbs. I work, you work, he works, she works, we work, they work. Notice that extra as on he slash she slash it. That's really important. A lot of beginners forget that. Practice with everyday verbs. Eat, sleep, study, play, watch, listen, read, write. Number 3. Basic sentence structure. English follows a pretty strict pattern. Subject, verb, object. For example, I eat breakfast. She reads books. We watch movies. This is different from some languages where the order might be flexible, so you need to practice this structure over and over. And number 4, simple questions using do and does, like, do you like coffee? Or does she speak English? And of course, how to answer yes, I do, or no, she doesn't. These 4 grammar points will carry you through your first 3 months of learning. Don't worry about past tense, future tense, or complex grammar yet. Just master these basics first. Does that feel more manageable now, Lisa?
Okay, that actually makes me feel so much better. I was worried you were going to say I need to memorize huge grammar textbooks, but you're saying I only need to focus on 4 main things for the first few months. That feels achievable. I especially like that you started with the verb to be because I've noticed that verb is everywhere in English. Every time I try to read something simple or listen to a basic conversation, I hear I am, you are, he is, she is. It really is in everything. I think what confuses me sometimes is the contractions, like when people say I'm instead of I am, or she's instead of she is. At first, I didn't even realize those were the same thing. I thought they were completely different words. But now I understand that it's just a shorter, faster way of saying the same thing, which makes sense. And the present simple tense with that extra as on he, she, and it, yes. That's something I keep forgetting. I'll say he work instead of he works. And I know it's wrong, but in my head, I keep thinking, why does it need an as? The other pronouns don't have it. But I guess that's just one of those rules I need to practice until it becomes automatic and natural. The subject verb object structure is interesting too. In my native language, we can be more flexible with word order, so sometimes I want to say things in a different order in English and it sounds wrong. Like I might want to say breakfast I eat instead of I eat breakfast, but that doesn't work in English. I need to train my brain to always think in the correct order. And questions with do and does, yes, those are tricky. Sometimes I forget to use them and I'll just say, you like coffee? Instead of, do you like coffee? I know that sounds strange to native speakers. So, okay, I'm going to focus on these 4 grammar points. The verb to be, present simple tense, basic sentence structure, and questions with do and does. That feels like a clear goal. But Ryan, what about listening and speaking practice? Should I be practicing those skills at the same time? Or should I wait until my grammar and vocabulary are better first? That makes perfect sense. I actually made that exact mistake you mentioned. I tried to watch a Hollywood movie with English subtitles thinking it would help me learn, but I couldn't understand anything at all. The actors were speaking so fast, using slang and idioms I had never heard, and I just felt discouraged and stupid. I thought maybe English was just too difficult for me, but now I understand that I was using material that was way too advanced for my level. I should have started with content specifically made for A1 beginners like me. I really like your suggestion about listening to the same short dialogue multiple times in different ways. First without subtitles, then with subtitles, then without again. I never thought about doing it that way, but it makes sense that repetition helps your brain recognize patterns. It's like when you hear a song for the first time, you might not catch all the words, but after listening 5 or 10 times, you suddenly know all the lyrics without even trying. I think language learning probably works similarly. And speaking practice. Yes, I'm definitely afraid of making mistakes. That's actually one of my biggest fears. I'm worried that if I speak and make errors, people will judge me or laugh at me, or they won't understand what I'm trying to say and I'll feel embarrassed. But I know you're right that I can't improve my speaking if I never actually speak. I love the idea of talking to myself and narrating my day because then there's no pressure and no one is listening and judging. I can just practice in private and get comfortable with using English out loud. That feels safe. Finding a language partner sounds helpful too, but I'm a little nervous about that. What if I can't understand what they're saying? Or what if I freeze up and forget all the English I know when I'm actually in a conversation? But I guess that's part of the learning process, right? I need to be brave and just try, even if it's uncomfortable at first. And you mentioned consistency being really important. 15 minutes every day instead of a long session once a week. I think I can definitely commit to that. 15 minutes isn't very long, so I don't have an excuse to skip it. So we've talked about alphabet and sounds, vocabulary, grammar basics, and listening and speaking practice. Can you help me put all of this together into one plan? Like, what should my daily or weekly schedule look like for the next few months? I really need that structure and clear roadmap you mentioned at the beginning.
That's a great question. And I'm really glad you asked about that because listening and speaking are absolutely essential, but they need to be approached carefully at the A1 level. Here's the thing. A lot of beginners make the mistake of trying to listen to fast native level content right away, like movies or podcasts, and they get discouraged because they can't understand anything. That's totally normal. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon if you've never jogged before, right? So, for listening practice, start with content specifically designed for A1 learners. There are tons of YouTube channels, apps, and websites that have slow, clear English with subtitles. Listen to the same short dialogues multiple times. First, just listen without reading. Then listen while reading the subtitles. Then listen again without subtitles. This repetition is how your brain starts to recognize patterns and sounds. Also, use content that interests you. If you like cooking, watch beginner English cooking videos. If you like animals, watch simple videos about animals. When you're interested, you'll stay motivated. For speaking, and this is really important, Lisa, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know it's scary to speak when you're not confident, but speaking is a skill that only improves with practice. Start by talking to yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but seriously, narrate your day in simple English. I wake up, I brush my teeth, I eat breakfast. Record yourself and listen back. You'll notice your mistakes and can correct them. Also, try to find a language exchange partner or join online communities where beginners practice together. Everyone is learning, so there's no judgment. And if you can afford it, taking lessons with a tutor once or twice a week can really accelerate your progress because you get immediate feedback and correction. The key is consistency. 15 minutes of listening practice every day is better than 2 hours once a week. Your brain needs regular exposure to start recognizing patterns. And remember, understanding comes before speaking. So don't worry if you can understand more than you can say. That's completely normal and actually a good sign. You're doing great so far, Lisa. I can tell you're really thinking about this seriously. Excellent. Okay, so now let's pull everything together into a practical plan that you can actually follow. I'm going to give you a 3-month beginner roadmap, and this is exactly what I recommend for all my A1 students. Month 1 is all about foundation building. Week 1, master the alphabet and basic sounds. Spend 20 minutes per day just on this. Week 2 and 3, learn your first 100 high frequency words using flashcards and simple example sentences. Focus on pronouns, basic verbs, and common nouns. Week 4, start learning the verb to be in all its forms and practice making simple sentences. During this whole month, listen to beginner level English for at least 10 minutes every day, even if you don't understand everything. Month 2 is where you expand your skills. Continue building vocabulary. Aim to know 300 words by the end of this month. Start learning present simple tense with regular verbs. Practice basic sentence structure. Subject, verb, object. Learn how to ask simple questions with do and does. And here's where you start speaking practice. Talk to yourself for 5 minutes every day in English, describing simple things around you. Also, try to find a language partner for 15-minute conversations once or twice a week. Month 3 is about confidence and fluency with the basics. By now, you should know around 500 to 700 words. Focus on using everything you've learned in real conversations and writing. Start writing simple sentences about your day. Maybe keep a journal in English where you write 5 to 10 sentences daily. Continue practicing listening with slightly more challenging content, but still at the A1 level. And start learning some basic past tense forms so you can talk about yesterday and last week, not just today. Throughout all 3 months, consistency is everything. It's better to study 30 minutes every single day than to study 3 hours on Saturday and nothing else all week. Your brain needs regular exposure and practice. And please, be patient with yourself. Language learning isn't linear. Some days you'll feel amazing, and some days you'll feel like you forgot everything. That's normal. Just keep showing up. Lisa, you've been such a wonderful student today, and I think everyone watching has learned a lot too. Do you feel more confident now about where to start and what to focus on?
Oh, wow. This is exactly what I needed. A 3-month plan with specific goals for each week and month. This is perfect. Let me make sure I understand everything correctly because I want to write this down and follow it exactly. So, month 1 is the foundation, week 1 on alphabet and sounds for 20 minutes daily, weeks 2 and 3 learning my first 100 high frequency words with flashcards and example sentences, and week 4 starting the verb to be while also listening to beginner English for 10 minutes every day. That feels totally doable, and I like that each week has a specific focus, so I'm not trying to do everything at once. Month 2 is where I expand, building up to 300 words, learning present simple tense, practicing basic sentence structure, asking simple questions with do and does, and starting to speak to myself for 5 minutes daily, plus finding a language partner for short conversations. I think finding a language partner might be the scariest part for me, but I'll try to be brave and remember that everyone learning English is in the same situation, making the same kinds of mistakes. And then month 3 is about confidence and fluency with the basics. Knowing 500 to 700 words, Ryan, using everything in real conversations and writing, keeping a daily journal with 5 to 10 sentences in English, listening to slightly more challenging content, and starting to learn basic past tense. By the end of 3 months, I should have a really solid foundation and feel much more confident than I do right now. I love that you emphasize consistency over long study sessions because I know myself. I can't maintain motivation if I try to study for 3 hours straight. But 30 minutes every day? That's manageable and sustainable. And I appreciate your reminder to be patient with myself and not get discouraged on the days when I feel like I'm not making progress or I've forgotten everything. That's such an important point because I tend to be really hard on myself. Ryan, I honestly feel so much more confident now than I did at the beginning of this conversation. I came in feeling overwhelmed and confused, but now I have a clear plan. I understand what to focus on, and I know exactly where to start. I'm actually excited to begin this journey now instead of scared. Thank you so much for breaking everything down in such a clear and practical way. I really think this time is going to be different because I have structure and direction instead of just randomly trying things and giving up. I'm ready to commit to this plan and actually become an English speaker. Thank you so much, Ryan. This has been incredibly helpful, and I'm so grateful you took the time to explain everything to me step by step. I'm definitely going to start with week 1 tomorrow, 20 minutes on alphabet and sounds every single day. I'll find those YouTube videos with native speakers. I'll practice writing the letters and I'll record myself to compare my pronunciation. And then I'll follow your 3-month plan exactly like you laid it out. I think having this conversation recorded is also really valuable because I can come back and watch it again whenever I feel confused or unmotivated. Sometimes we need these reminders about why we started and what the plan is, especially on the difficult days when learning feels hard. So thank you for giving me and everyone watching such clear guidance and encouragement. I truly believe I can do this now, and I'm excited to see where I'll be 3 months from now. Thank you again for everything, Ryan.
Student today, and I think everyone watching has learned a lot too. Do you feel more confident now about where to start and what to focus on? I love hearing that. You know, that's exactly what I hoped you'd get from this conversation. Learning English or any language doesn't have to be this mysterious, overwhelming thing. When you break it down into clear steps and focus on the essentials first, it becomes manageable and even enjoyable. For everyone watching, remember these key takeaways. Start with the alphabet and sounds. Build your vocabulary with high-frequency words. Focus on basic grammar structures like the verb to be, and present simple tense. Practice listening and speaking every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes. And most importantly, be consistent and patient with yourself. You're not going to become fluent in 3 months, but you will build a solid foundation that makes everything else possible. Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today and being so open about your learning journey. I know you're going to do amazing things with your English. And to everyone watching, if you found this helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment telling me what language learning topic you'd like me to cover next. Remember, everyone who speaks English fluently today was once a beginner just like you. You can do this. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy learning, everyone!